us to our final interview of this program, which will address an issue that has grown significantly in our awareness throughout the COVID-19 crisis. As travel stopped and manufacturing slowed, as fewer cars were on the road and people began working from home, the world saw air and water quality improve at rates that were unprecedented and allowed scientists to conduct studies that would have otherwise been impossible. Countries, particularly in Europe, have looked at climate-oriented regulations and economic incentives for green innovation. Companies are changing their cultures regarding carbon emissions, with many redoubling their efforts around reducing their footprints. That's the case for our next awardee, Gihan Koliander, Global Head of Travel for Boston Consulting Group, or how it's known these days simply as BCG, and her work in providing travel data for making strategic decision-making around sustainability. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Gihan. You're coming to us from Sweden. We know it's up late for you. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
And congratulations on being named a Best Practitioner.
Thank you.
So BCG, like many consulting companies, traces much of its carbon footprint to travel. My understanding is that travel accounts for about 80% of your company's carbon emissions. You've made a change, BCG has made a change to its carbon commitment recently, going to a net zero commitment. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means and what impact that's had on working this year as the global head of travel for the company?
Yes, so indeed, BCG has committed to reducing emission by 30% per employee by 2025. A net zero climate impact is a bit of a more ambitious target than the more established concept of carbon neutrality. Mm-hmm. It's a decision that ultimately needs to be made on leadership level. Then the travel and sustainability team have worked closely to develop a robust, detailed data set from which we were able to define the 30% target, mm-hmm. and also the levers to meet this target. So what it meant literally is looking across our whole business in general, looking at why we travel, the purpose, who is traveling where, what is happening. And then inevitably looking at the travel piece of this has been fundamental to enable us to pull the levers that we need, and to ensure at the same time that we are meaningfully reducing emissions. So we need to, as a firm, also respect the core of our business model and the value creation for our clients at the same time.
So meaningfully using emissions. I love that phrase, and I think it's one that we should remember as we go into 2021, because I think it will become a concept that is well rooted in travel management. I want to be really clear about the scope of the travel manager's role in carbon emissions reduction. And we had a nice conversation about this on the phone, Gihan. BTN is first and foremost recognizing you for your data contribution to the effort in terms of management. What are you providing, and how are you ensuring its accuracy and consistency? And yeah, the standardization, I think, is such a big deal.
Yeah, totally. So travel data is fundamental in providing any firm with insight to take any strategic decision, whether it is on cost, security, behavior, or sustainability related strategies. And ultimately, high quality data is the backbone for this. And given the fact that travel is super nuanced, and you want to make sure that you're making the right decision at management level, making the right choice at traveler level, you need to ensure that you have tight and timely information sharing. So our team has central ownership of collating, reporting, making the data relevant, comprehensive, and consistent. And we do that across office, country, region, and globally. So our sustainability team is hence dependent upon the travel data that we are providing, and they team with us for a lot of insight. And to answer your question on what we provide, you literally desiccate everything that we're doing in travel, the data metrics on O&D level, flight, airline, cabin, point of sale, traveler cohort, reason for travel. That tremendous amount of data is provided on monthly basis to our sustainability team, who then applied the agreed emission factor by BCG, which is DEFRA, that's the UK Department of Agriculture and Rural Affairs. Then the team shares the data with an independent third party for verification statement of footprint. So it's a tremendous amount of work that takes place in the background that enable us then to measure and monitor the transparency of our reporting.
But I want to underscore that you've said to me that it's very possible. It's a very possible exercise for travel managers. Can you, I know it's a lot of work, but can you tell us about your experience in terms of being asked to do this, taking on the mantle of sustainability, but also being judicious about the scope of what travel managers should be responsible for?
So data is A and Z for travel and travel managers. The fact that we had to be faced with different challenges depending on where we are, depending on the fact that there are different priorities, etc. Whether you need the data for a security purpose, as we were talking now regarding the COVID situation, or whether you need the data for sustainability purpose, as we have done, ultimately it all boils down to very, very good data. So a travel manager's role or the travel function role is to make sure that you have, number one, that you have centralized data view of your firm, and that you are able to have the ability to look at the data on a detailed level, if you wish, but also on a global level. And then number two is that you ensure that you're providing the right level of insight to the firm when it comes to the usage of the data. I'm seeing that. I'm not sure if my screen is very good or not. Probably is my internet sitting at the North Pole. But I hope you can hear me well.
We are hearing you just fine. Yeah, your image is a little bit pixelated, but we're fine. So we're just going to keep going. So the second part of what I was so fascinated with about your program, and what I think is so important, is that we ask our travelers to be accountable, and for our divisions to be accountable for their carbon footprints attached to travel. To do that, we have to give them the tools to make those decisions at the right time. One of the things that I like about your program is that you have brought that data into the booking environment. And tell me about, I know you're working with KDS to do this. They've been in this area for a while. They've made some changes recently to, I think, make that process a little bit better. But what I liked about it was that you're using the same standard in terms of carbon data, the same standards for your booking tool as you use for your strategic data reporting. Tell me about what you offer to the travelers and how that aligns with what you're giving to management.
Yes, totally. So actually it started already in 2015, where in BCG we decided that we would like to impact the user experience and make it seamless irrespective of where we are. So we created a global travel portal centrally as a one-stop shop for everything that is travel related. Next step for us was ultimately to look at next generation online tool and the capabilities of those next generation tools. So already since 2018, we started launching KDS Neo. So KDS first, and then it became the upgrade on that, and KDS Neo at BCG worldwide, in all our offices worldwide. The good capabilities that Neo has is the fact that you are able as a traveler to look at your to select basically flight on the basis of the emission of that flight. So at time of booking, where you can really impact your decision, you are able to see what options that you have in place in the tool. What makes it also important is that there are so many different ways of looking at emission. If you're looking today at different ways of calculating emission, And what is very important for us is that we are using the same source of data emission as we are using also in our in BCG. In our way, we're calculating overall emission, not only on the online tool. We think that ultimately communication at point of action is critical for shaping a far much more sustainable behavior.
Very good. Thank you so much. And the last question I have for you today, Jihan, is that I've seen several announcements, and in fact, some that came in just last week from some airlines about their own efforts in carbon reduction efforts, including some on carbon sequestration, which I know that BCG is also investing in. When you go out to source partners, will you look to suppliers that have common strategies to BCG? Because in your own company's research, they've been shown to work?
Yes, so it is absolutely, to your point, it is worth mentioning that airlines have already reduced their per passenger CO2 emission by 50% since 1990. I think we don't talk about it, but it is a fact. And IATA has stated that much of the improvement is down to fuel efficiency, aggressive adoption of new technology, efficient aircraft design principle, and what have you. Airline has also reconfirmed their recommitment to reduce net CO2 emission to half of the 2005 level by 2050. And my understanding as well is that IATA just called recently on government worldwide to support the development of sustainable aviation fuel as a critical step to achieving this target. So I guess a long answer to you is absolutely. We certainly over time we will likely be prioritizing the suppliers that are making meaningful progress in that area.
Very good. Thank you so much, Jihan. I'm afraid we're out of time for our interview portion today, but that just means we're going to be following you more closely in the future to see how your program develops and BCG's progress to its commitment. So thank you so much for being here, definitely this evening for you in Sweden. And